Coming in at number 9 on the best albums of the year list is Masseduction by St Vincent. I've never been a big St Vincent fan just because I always considered it pretty standard blueprint indie rock, which isn't something I usually listen to. I really like genre crossover and stuff that has a little bit of a twist to it. But I remember I think it was 2009 or 2010, when St. Vincent's first album came out. It made a really big splash, in a large part because it got Pitchfork Best New Music. But everybody who listened to it, I was in radio at the time, so a fair amount of DJs were spinning it, and people at the station had it on in the background and stuff like that. But everybody seemed to regard it very, very warmly. I never quite got into it. I should probably revisit it. If I had to guess why I never got into it, it's because I wasn't very into listening to lyrics at the time. I was more into atmospherics and grooves and stuff like that in music, and that's what really caught my ear. Now I try to be a little bit more of a 360-degree music listener. But Annie Clark, I think that's the name of the lady behind St. Vincent. Annie Clark, if I had to assign what her best attribute is, she is a really, really good lyricist. I think the best that I heard this year of any album on Masseduction. Like anybody, she's really hit or miss. Like, everybody really seems to like the song Pills. That was the single. I thought the chorus of Pills, 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 da-da-da-da-da was a little pandery, or a little like, oh, there's a pill for everything. And like a joke like a 50-year-old would make or something. So I wasn't really into that, but for every lyric or chorus that fell flat on the album, which wasn't a lot, I think the most prominent culprit was, like I say, the single from the album. There were some really carnal, hit you fast and hard lyrics. Like, I thought the chorus for Los Ageless, I think it was, how can anybody have you and lose you and not lose their mind too? Within a very succinct line there, those are some really, really powerful lyrics. And I think, there are some moments in life that are very hard and heavy and emotionally taxing. That took one of those moments that I think everybody has experienced and just crammed it into a little line of a song, which I think is one of the best, if not the best, things that a song can do for you, is that sort of emotional compression, taking a lot of emotion and putting it in a very compact space. Production-wise, Masseduction reminded me a lot of The Fragile by Nine Inch Nails. I would say about 25% acoustic instruments, the rest of it very heavily treated beats and electronic atmospherics and stuff like that, which, being a first and foremost industrial fan in music, I did like a lot on this album, and kind of biased me towards how successful it was. Yeah, the production was very, very much in the line of The Fragile by Trent Reznor. Very polished, very big sounding, and a lot of variability in the different instruments that jump in and out of a song. So very easy to, any given song on Masseduction keeps you entertained very, very easily, I feel like. Sometimes the swap outs of different instruments and the atmospherics and the different movements the songs go through are a little bit overdone, I think. That guy The Needle Drop, who's really successful in reviewing music on YouTube, I'll stick with him in saying the songs are too long. Towards the 2 or 3 minute mark, the songs tend to meander into some different production tricks and stuff like that, like the percussion dropping out and the vocals going through some kind of weird filter. And on almost every track it does that, and I'm not sure if the root of that problem, maybe you like it. To me, I thought they should have just cut the songs at the 2 minute mark and made it like a power pop song, or done something more interesting than all the knob twiddling that they're doing after the 2 minute mark. But I don't know if the root of that is that the songs are underwritten, and yeah, there should have been more development done on the song itself, or if the songs just should have been truncated at the 2 minute mark. But I do feel like the songs all of them meander way too long with stuff that your average person isn't going to be interested in. I also felt like sometimes Annie Clark's lyrics didn't rise to the occasion of the very dark music. For instance, on one of the songs, very industrial, like kinky, distorted beat song, she's talking about dress me up in leather. No, it's a little bit better. And you know, for that to be the kinkiest or most edgy lyric in a song, dressing up in leather, it felt a little bit high school to me. Like Trent Reznor would really have some dark shit going on in his songs, and I feel like dressing in leather, if that's the best thing Annie Clark could dig up, I wasn't very impressed. So yeah, the first 2 or 3 minutes of all the songs on Masseduction are solid gold, and then they do some noodly stuff that I don't think anybody really cares about. But for every stretch of heavily produced tracks, Annie Clark will, you know, then usually drop off into an acoustic ballad, which once again showcases that once you strip away all the production from her music, which sometimes, I would say usually does her music a service, sometimes does it a really big disservice, but once you strip all that away, she's a very talented instrumentalist and songwriter. Just the chords and words of her songs on paper are absolutely masterful, and I think that's the best thing that you can do as an artist, so props to her for that. One last thing I did want to mention, that I think she's a really good guitarist as well. The guitar is pretty much dead in the mainstream marketplace. A lot of people don't like to hear that. The only people who care about guitars nowadays are people who are into metal and people who play guitar, which is a pretty small market. Annie Clark is A, a really good guitarist, and B, she knows at this stage in the music industry how to slide guitar successfully into a song that has some chance of mainstream success, even on like pop radio, I would say. She plays in alternate tunings. Her guitars are really, they don't focus on the melody or like hair metal style leads or anything like that, like your average guitarist thinks is still popular. Yeah, most guitarists need to like catch up on the past 20 years of music and realize that if there is a place for guitar in modern music, it is a very different, very, very different, much more abstract one than it was 20 years ago. And Annie Clark is the exemplary figure of that. Her guitars are all about just weirdness and the texture of the sound that's coming out of the guitar, as opposed to the melody or the notes or anything like that. And as far as the mix goes, her, you know, really squiggly alien guitar lines are always set pleasingly in a corner, where I guess the bigger aspects of the track, like the beats and lyrics, are taking the center stage, which is a smart choice. That's what people care about in the music industry nowadays. And if you wanted that guitar, you know, it's doing its weird alien stuff in the corner, and it's a really smart use of the guitar in a world where the guitar is pretty much dead. So yeah, Masseduction is one of the most ambitious albums of the year, and even though St. Vincent never figures out what to do after the 2 or 3 minute mark on any given song, and she tries the same noodly stuff every single time, just from a raw, you know, like if you were to turn these songs into what's called fake book music, just a bunch of lyrics with chords over them, I thought this was the best album this year. Annie Clark is the best songwriter that I heard on Tidal this year. And coming in at number 9, I think she's still an artist who's very relevant, at the forefront of music on a number of fronts, you know, imbibing production heavy music with something more than just production. She's a really good lyricist, being a guitarist who is pressing into uncharted territory as far as how the guitar fits into more mainstream oriented music. And I look forward to hearing what she has to do in the future. Coming in at number 8 on the list is The Courtneys Part 2 by The Courtneys. So check out that video next.